We are just coming back from closed session, and we would like to stand, and Mr. Diego Castellano, thank you, would be leading us today. He is a student from Snow Elementary.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We just came back from closed session, and during that time, we discussed with our negotiator the state of negotiations. The next thing we have is the approval of the agenda.
I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as it is. Would you vote, please? The vote is 5-0 with one absent. Mr. Stadler is not able to join us this evening. Student council reports, Dr. Markin.
Thank you, President Crocker. We're going to first hear from Newark Junior High School, Jackie and Jana, if they would please come to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Arcos, and I am school president at Newark Junior High School.
My name is Yana Makadayag, and I am the vice president of Newark Junior High School. And today we will be talking about the music in the quad, student store, the customized apparel and accessories, Cougar coupons, morning announcements, the first dance, value of the month, and the clubs. We vote on each topic to make sure that everything we pick is fair for the students.
The first topic we will be talking about is the student store. Right now we are still selling the same school supplies for students to buy are open during lunch and after school. We're deciding on designs for customized apparel and accessories to sell in the student store. We are selling ice creams at the student store for $1, and if you have an ASB, you get a free Otter Pop with the purchase of an ice cream.
The second topic we will be talking about are the Cougar coupons. Students receive Cougar coupons for the good deeds and hard work in school. They can drop these off at the student store during the first 15 minutes of lunch and will automatically receive an Otter Pop and be registered to win a $5 gift card to Tutti Frutti or a Starbucks gift card.
The third topic we will be talking about is music in the quad. We play music during lunch in the quad every Friday as a reward for the students keeping the campus clean. Speaking of music, the first dance was successful, and we had over 300 students attend. We also have clubs that students sign up for a few days ago during lunch, and we are starting to get those started and going.
Last but not least is the value of the month. The value of the month for October is being cooperative. We have value of the month to encourage students to do good deeds and to have good manners. We make posters and mention it in the morning announcements to promote it.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments?
Excellent report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies. Up next from McGregor School site, Brenda and Tanya. Not here. Okay. Let's go to Nicole, Newark Memorial High School.
Good evening. Now more than a month into school, our campus is getting a lot busier and students are getting more active. Sign-ups for girls soccer and workouts for girls basketball have started. Sign-ups have begun for volunteer work, such as volunteering at elementary schools like Bunker, Lincoln, and Music for walkathons and fall festivals. Members of Interact, the service club at our school, is volunteering at the Walk to Fight Diabetes in Oakland this weekend. Tutoring is now available during A period before first period in school starts for most students to accommodate others that are athletes that may be busy after school for practices and games. SAT study sessions have been scheduled to prepare people for the upcoming SAT and PSAT. The PSAT is scheduled on October 16th and is available for all grade levels for $25. This practice test is now cost-free and mandatory for all sophomores to help them get prepared and gain experience for the actual SAT. Club Day is this Friday, and that's where clubs will set up tables and everyone walks around during lunch during the quad, and they get to get a feel for information and get active on our campus.
Great. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. I did see Brenda and Tanya did just walk in. Ladies, do you want to come up and do your report for McGregor? Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, President Crocker, Vice President Thomas, Director, Superintendent, Dr. Markin, students and parents. I am Brenda Morfin, a senior at Bridgepoint High School.
And I am Tanya Castro, senior at Bridgepoint. We are college-bound students, and we are the test takers that scored great on the test. Also with us tonight is Edelweiss, who is here to learn the ropes. Movie night Thursday, October 10th from 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. One lousy dollar gets you admission to the movie Grown-Ups. All food and drink items are $1. Think about it. For $5 you could live large.
Prom committees forming. We have a prom committee that meets weekly to plan the big hooray. We are going to party like it's 1999. Look for fundraisers and other ways to give, as well be doing many activities to raise money to lower the price of the prom tickets. Several board meeting members and the superintendents have given in the past, and we are very grateful.
Car wash. Talking about a car wash. Yeah. We plan on washing cars soon. We like the 19th, but still have to make arrangements with Big O Tires on Newark Boulevard. If you are out driving around on Saturday the 19th, stop in and take that road grime off your ride.
So we are excited about having Ms. Villalba as our guidance counselor and Mr. Gallardo as our therapist on staff to help kids with their diploma plans, careers, and problems. Thank you all for getting these people to our school, and we need them.
Miss Jody is working hard in the McGregor Library so we have a first-rate place to learn. Mr. Orpa is scrounging for matching furniture because he thinks having nice stuff in our reading and writing center is important. We are excited about the possibilities. Imagine Common Core taking place at Bridgepoint with kids having access to a text-rich environment.
Halloween at Bridgepoint will be celebrated on Halloween for people that celebrate. Stop by during and after lunch to judge contests and eat candy and do the trick-or-treat for the Whitford kids. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for letting us address you this evening. We look forward for next month.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rodriguez has a question.
Don't go away, come up here.
Just kidding.
You did great, by the way.
Thank
Those two individuals that you mentioned, I hope that you don't think that they're just going to be yours, to keep all the time. So we might use them at other sites.
Yeah.
And I know you're excited, especially having the extra counselor and helping you with the transition. There's probably a lot of students that might be thinking about going back to the high school and graduating from there. And I know she's making that easier for you guys.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for walking with, and treating her nice, because she's new to our district.
Yeah.
And you are treating her nice, aren't you?
Yeah, she's
Okay.
very cool.
Thank you.
All right,
Excellent
thank you.
report.
Thank you, ladies. It's the Snow Bear Blizzard tonight, spotlight. Snow Blizzard Bears? That's what, didn't I say that? Oh, yeah, I guess you are a blizzard bear, not a bear blizzard. The Blizzard Bear, you should drop one of those names. But obviously the Blizzard Bears are in the house and in full effect, and we can't wait to hear congratulations on your API scores and the wonderful community and family that you're building. But one of the things that we do want to do is honor a classified and certificated employee, and as always, it's very hard to select, but we feel it's important to select. and to honor the great work that you're doing. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Irwin at this time.
Thank you, Superintendent Markin. Board members and President Crocker, it's a pleasure this evening to highlight and spotlight classified and certificated employees of Snow Elementary. I'd like to invite Sandy Akaritzi. Sandy Akaritzi is Snow's classified employee to be spotlighted. Sandy has worked in various positions for Newark Unified for the past 16 years. She started as a special education aide and has moved up in her positions throughout the district. She's been an office manager, an admin secretary for the BITSA cluster, an admin secretary in pupil services, and joined the Snow family 3 years ago as their office manager. Over the past years, Sandy has reorganized the office into a very warm, friendly, efficient place to be. She is passionate about student safety and to make sure all of our students at Snow, their needs are met. She takes an active role in safety and the security of the school, and her expertise is much appreciated. Sandy has been a great addition to the Snow School, and we congratulate you on being their classified spotlight employee. Linda and Christy. That's fine. That's fine. So they go everywhere together, and they both arrived here. Snow has chosen a dynamic dual of first grade to be their spotlight certificated. Christy Palomino is a native of Newark. She attended Russian, McGregor, the junior high school, Newark Memorial. She has never left Newark. Well, she's probably at one point left Newark, but she has been a teacher at Snow for the past 19 years. During her tenure, she has been a literacy coordinator, interim principal, and a school leader in so many different ways. Christy has been a BITSA support provider on the Common Core panel and has written Common Core stems for Region 4's Board Language Project. The school runs because Christy is the thread that holds the history and the future together and keeps everyone motivated and growing as a community. Christy is passionate and inspires all of her students to have a passion and a love for reading and writing. Linda started her career as a guest teacher. Back then we probably called them subs.
Actually, it was in Indianapolis.
Oh, that's right, it was. If I had just read the next thing, it said Indianapolis. So strike that. We've been lucky enough to have her in Newark for the past 16 years, and even more lucky to have had her here in Snow that whole time. Linda is a leader in literacy, on Common Core panel, a master teacher, a BITSA support provider. She has worked with Christy to write Common Core language standards for Region 4's Board Language Project. Linda is a reading specialist at heart and provides every one of her students a strong foundation in literacy. She instills the love of reading and writing in her students and models her passion daily. Christy and Linda are a dynamic duo in first grade. As you have heard, they both have been significant in building foundational literacy skills in all of Snow's students. Together, they have facilitated the daily 5 trainings in Newark and are always willing to try new ideas to support every child to soar academically. Together, they truly represent what true reading and learning looks like. We are very proud and honored to have them as teachers, leaders, and models of inquiry for students and teachers, and we congratulate Christy and Linda on being Snow's Spotlight certificated employees. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce the wonderful principal of Snow Elementary School, Robin Surt.
Good evening, school board members, President Crocker, Dr. Markin, and esteemed colleagues and community. It's my privilege and honor tonight. I'm a little emotional after that wonderful presentation about our teachers because snow is the place to be in Newark. It's my honor and privilege to share with you Newark's probably biggest hidden secret, Snow Elementary School. What I want to share with you tonight is at the beginning of this school year, Dr. Markin shared a keynote speech with us about Newark needs to be the destination place. And I will share with you as an educator and a parent, Newark is the place to be. We have so many wonderful things happening at all of our schools, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity tonight to share with you what's happening at Snow. Snow Elementary School sometimes gets forgotten. We're the last letter in the alphabet. And so sometimes we run out of steam by the time we get to Snow. And sometimes people think, well, Snow makes average gains. They're doing pretty well. But I'm here to share with you tonight that there's nothing average about Snow. There's nothing that needs to be overlooked. Like I said, it's Newark's best hidden secret. When you walk on the campus, it's an amazing place to be because you have passionate teachers. We have more than just our teachers being recognized here tonight. We have passionate teachers who truly believe that every child can learn. We have a wonderful student community, and this year we're doing a little bit different with our spotlight. They'll be embedded in our presentation. So we have students here tonight, and then we have a phenomenal community that really comes together to really make Snow the best place that it can be. So one of the highlights tonight is our API. As Dr. Markin had said, we made a huge growth this year, 24 points, but I don't even think that really tells the whole story of what we're doing. Test scores are one measure that we look at, unfortunately a big measure in a lot of ways, but like I said, when you walk on our campus, there's a feeling of learning happening. Our teachers are on the cutting edge of trying new best practices, which really are enhancing what the kids are learning and giving them opportunities to be ready for as we transition to the Common Core. But we are very excited with our recent growth. As far as AYP and looking at our growth, I'll first talk about the math. As you can see, we had a huge jump in our math, and we've had some steady gains along the way. This year was just a remain focus year, and so we didn't implement anything new. So we could see some true opportunities for these gains to happen. In ELA, we took a little bit of a dip, but that wasn't, we weren't surprised by that. For the past 2 years, we've been implementing new literacy foundations with our CAFE and Daily 5. And as the research shows, when you're making changes, especially that second year, you're going to see that dip. And so we know, we're all confident that our students are really learning all that they need to know, and we'll start to see that progression go upwards. As far as the federal AYP accountability, we were so close. So we made 19 out of 21 of the AYP criteria. For us, this was a little bit frustrating, for a lack of a better word. We made all of our areas except for our overall language arts, which was really affected by our students with disabilities who have not been a significant group for us in the past. And so we made all of our significant group growth and our students with disabilities. We want all of our students to continue to grow. So unfortunately, they took a dip the past 2 years, and now they became a new target for us. So the target changed for us this year. So we will be looking at that with our data, and we're implementing a lot of new programs to support our students with disabilities. With that, as I said earlier, our language arts took a little bit of a dip from the 52.7 to the 54.1, or vice versa. And so we really are looking at ways to address the literacy needs of our students. And as I said, we've implemented a lot of new things over the past few years, so we were not surprised by that dip. Some of the things that we're doing is really building an effective literacy program for our students. Dr. Markin talked about each school needs to put themselves on the map, and what I can say about Snow is we've put ourselves on the map for literacy. This is our passion as a staff, and this is our focus. We are making sure every one of our students is a reader and writer by the time they leave our campus, because we know that those are foundational skills for everything else. And so we know that they're really important components of reading instruction, and tonight I have some students students who are going to come share with you a little bit about the components that we've really been focusing on in our school. And the first one is students need to read a lot, voracious reading.
Hello, my name is Cesar Castillo, and I'm a 6th grader at Snow School. I'd like to share with you about what it means to be a voracious reader. Voracious reading means reading a lot and with enthusiasm. When you are a voracious reader, it enhances your vocabulary and improves your accuracy when reading out loud. Both of these help students in school. Personally, I enjoy being a voracious reader because my vocabulary has recently improved. In addition, I have noticed that my classmates have been reading a lot more since voracious reading was introduced into our reading curriculum. I feel that future students will benefit from this method of learning.
So as Caesar shared, voracious reading is really spread across our school. I had a 6th grader the other day share with me, well, it was actually the second week of school, and he said, Mrs. Sturt, I've already read 5 books. And I'm like, you mean over the summer? And he's like, no, in the past 2 weeks. And he's a student that we were really concerned about when he started with us. We weren't sure. He had some behavior concerns, and now we've got him engaged because he loves to read. And so it was just exciting to see that our kids truly are voracious readers. We now have implemented a school-wide reading log, so parents K-6 can recognize this is the same reading log K-6, and they know that we expect our kids to read, and we give them a full week. They get to include the weekends too, because we know that reading can't just happen during the school week. And so we've created a reading log that has 7 days on it because we want them reading all the time. Another important component of our reading instruction is getting kids in good fit books. So I'd like to have Abigail come up.
Hello, my name is Abigail, and I am going to tell you what I think about good fit books. A good fit book is a book that is not too challenging or too easy, but just right. I think that all kids should decide to take on the challenge of finding good fit books. Teachers help students find good fit books that match their reading level. If you challenge yourself to read difficult books, then you're going to increase in your reading level. If you just read the books you always read, you're not going to get any better. I try to find books with some harder words rather than books with easier words. It gives me the chance to expand my vocabulary. I now know lots of different words after finding out what they mean. Thank you for listening, and good night.
Thank you, Abby. So like I said, it's really that good fit book like she was sharing with you. Our kids need to be in the right books, ready for them to work on what their strategies are that they need to work on as readers. So the other 2 components that we really focus on is getting kids to learn to read. We have fluency that they work on. We work in small groups with our students. But the best thing we do for our students, every one of our teachers confers with every one of their students. So they know who their students are as readers, and they set goals with each of those students. So our kids are saying what they need to do as a reader. They're working with a teacher to create some goals. It's exciting to see. We have the developmental reading assessment, the DRA-K6 that we utilize, and every teacher knows where their child is as a reader, and they set goals with them. The kids now know what level they're at and where they want to go. So that's a really big component for us because reading before was a little abstract for the kids. They just did it, but they didn't know why or what they needed to work on, and we've made that explicit for them. And the last piece is kids need to develop thoughtful literacy. And this is really going to connect us with the Common Core. Our kids are getting good about talking about reading and the strategies that make them successful. And we're giving our kids the opportunity to work in book clubs, little Oprah book clubs, and getting them the opportunity to share about their thinking as they're reading and to hear other people's perspective, because when we all read, we all come from a different perspective. So we're giving our kids the venue to have the conversations about reading and making sense of reading. Another component that we added this year was our summer reading program, and I'm going to have Betsy Barba come up and share with you about that.
Hi, my name is Betsy Barba. I am a proud 6th grader from Snow Elementary School. I am here to talk about our school's 5-20-20 summer reading program. During the summer, Everyone in our school got a special book bag. The bag had math flashcards, 5 books that matched our reading levels, and a reading log so we could keep track of how much we read during the summer. We were asked to read 20 minutes a day and practice our math facts 20 minutes a day. I feel that completing the 5-20-20 program helped me improve my reading and kept my math memory fresh for 6th grade. I also feel that this program really helped a lot of people be entertained this summer and helped us all to get ready for the next school year. Thank you and have a good evening.
So this summer reading program, as she said, every student went home with a bag of books specifically tailored to them. It took a lot of work on the teacher's part to put the book bags together, and they had their name on it, and the books were selected for them. So it was at their levels. You can see there's a picture there of a pile of books. That was me resorting them back once we got them back. But the amazing thing is we had almost 250 kids bring their books back. And if they brought their books back, they received a $5 gift certificate to get a new book at the next book fair. And then all of the students who actually completed their reading log, which was about 147 of them, are getting a snow t-shirt. So the kids really were excited about reading over the summer. And here's the best part. So we were looking at that summer slide that happens, and that was our purpose of doing the summer reading, was not just to tell our kids to read, but provide them the books to read. And so these are some of our initial results from doing the DRA with our students, and I just have 1st and 2nd grade right now for you. As you can see, our point in getting kids to read was that they didn't slide over the summer. That's what always happens, is the gap keeps growing because our students who are going to read continue to do it, and the ones that don't have the resources, it continues to grow. So we wanted to narrow that gap. And so what we see here is just less than 50% of our 1st graders maintained the reading levels that they left us with. And we had just over 20% that actually increased over the summer. And then we did have about the same that decreased, but we were more excited that our kids were at least maintaining what they got. And the same in 2nd, and actually in 2nd grade, we had more students actually increase over the summer. So we're seeing that the summer reading program was a big benefit for them as well. And so we will continue to do that and find more ways to get kids to read during the summer. Okay, as we're bridging to the Common Core, as I said earlier, snow is the place where phenomenal teaching is happening, and our teachers are on the cutting edge of a lot of new work. This year we are implementing the new units of study from Lucy Calkins, and they are all aligned to the Common Core standards with the 3 genres. And so our teachers are really unpacking all of it and getting our kids ready to be writers for the Common Core, because as we move to the Common Core, all of the new testing will be based on how strong of writers our students are. When we're looking at them as readers and mathematicians, it's all going to be judged based on what kind of writer they are. And so we took the step of looking at writing first and building upon that for our students and providing a really strong foundation in writing. So tonight I have some teachers that are going to share with you a little bit about the new units of study. I have Helena Souza, a 3rd grade teacher, and Kim Nickerson, also a 3rd grade teacher.
Thank you and good evening. So we thought it would be important to share with you a little bit about the architecture of what a session or a lesson looks like in these units of study. And so the first part is really just what they call a prelude, and explaining the why or the rationale of what you're teaching that day and how it's super important. And it's a bit of like a keynote speech where Lucy, who is the main author of these books, she kind of pumps you up as a teacher to know what you're doing and how you're going to do that. And then there are 3 parts to the workshop, which is the mini lesson, and then a part where conferring and small group work takes place, and then at the end there's a teaching share. So going back into the mini lesson, you can see that just that mini lesson in itself has 4 parts to it. The first part is a connection where you are just recalling with the students what you've been doing up until that point and making a connection for them that, you know, we're continuing on this path. And it might start with sharing, for example, the work that was done the day before, kind of highlighting the work of a particular student. And then that connection ends with stating a clear teaching point, that today you are going to learn how to do this. And then it moves into the teaching portion, where as the teacher you're either demonstrating, so you might actually show the type of writing that you want students to do that day, or it could be a bit of guided practice where you start off demonstrating but then bring them into that and they are writing along with you. It could also be just an explanation of the kind of writing with a little bit of examples. And also could be an inquiry where you're looking at how other authors have done it and seeing what is it that they've done that I can also try doing in my own writing. The next part of the mini lesson is to do the active engagement piece, and that's really turning it over to the students. It's when I like to say, turn to your partner, and they get to talk and try out whatever writing was demonstrated. They also might just be asked to articulate what was observed, like during my demonstration, what is it that you saw, what were the steps that I took to write this, this example. And it's the piece of the mini lesson where you are transferring the learning. Then the mini lesson ends with a link where you're just restating again the teaching point. This is what we were learning to do today, and then the send-off, having them go to their seats, and they have that independent working time to try out what was taught. During that time, the teacher then does conferring, which can either be one-on-one conversations with the students, or it could be pulling a small group that you notice has the same needs, and in that time you're reteaching previous mini lessons, or it could be that day's mini lesson that you want to go over with the students. And there's also a mid-workshop teach, which is really just like another lesson that's in there. And it's usually, again, addressing what is more of a common need for most of the students. And then after the independent portion of them writing, you come back and reflect, and it's called a teaching share, where you can highlight what was learned again that day, go over the teaching point again, and kind of spotlight some of the students that have done that work for the day.
Ooh. Good evening. So I would like to just share two pieces of the assessment that is in this writing curriculum. Really, the assessment in this curriculum is multi-layered and multifaceted, but I just want to focus on first the learning progression, which is up on the slide. And the learning progression is a grid that is based, that is the Common Core standards. And there is one for each type of writing, and we can see the progression for each part of writing from pre-K all the way to 6th grade. And really this is the center, the heart of the assessment system. We use a portion of this learning progression when we grade our on-demand assessments, and we have 12 on-demand assessments in this curriculum. There are 3 at the beginning of the year, 3 at the end of the year, and then 1 at the end of each unit. So by the end of the year, we will have 4 on-demand assessments for each type of writing. And as teachers, we use the rubric that's created from this, really to place our writers where they are, where they fall on the progression, and from that, we can then differentiate instruction. Yep. The second piece, which is connected to the learning progression, is a writing checklist. And this is mainly for the individual student writers. This is the copy that they see. It's written in a little bit better, well, it's written in first person, and in a little bit more kid-friendly language. And how the students use this is they get to look at their on-demand assessment, or well, any piece of writing actually, but it starts with the on-demand assessment. They create writing goals based on this checklist. They can monitor those goals, and they can also have it out as they're writing to help them with any part of the writing process. So as they're beginning their draft, they can look at leads, and it says exactly what is expected of them in their leads. As teachers, the writing checklist is really great because it allows us to sit down in one of those one-on-one conferences with this child, and we can look together at the evidence that is in their writing. So you can kind of see that so for example, in between grade 3 and grade 4, it says not yet, starting to, and yes. So the writer needs to go and find evidence in their pieces of writing to show that they are accomplishing their lead as stated in the grade 3 expectations. This is end of the year, so it's end of the year for grade 3. So really the writing checklist also accelerates their learning because they're looking at grade 3 and they might be using this checklist in December or January. But also as they're starting to and using it more consistently, whichever piece we're looking at, they can also look at the next grade level. And I can start to, or a teacher could start to teach them the next grade level. And I'd like to introduce one of my students, Diego Castellanos, and he is going to talk to you a little bit about his writer's notebook.
Hi, my name is Diego Castellanos, and I'm going to talk to you about my writing. So my goals, I have something to go back to. I have it out in my writing so I can have evidence that I did it, and if I didn't, I'd try to go write another story with it, and sometimes she'll have us revise our drafts, so instead of just going back to see what we did, we have something to work on during writer's workshop, and to use edit, punctuation, capitals, or periods.
Thank you, Diego. So actually, Diego's class has been working on this is their second year because they piloted a little bit of the curriculum last year. And so this is actually a page out of his notebook with his goals on it. And as he said, those goals help him in his writer's workshop time. And this is a story he had in his as well. And this is what he's already producing at the beginning of the year. So we're just seeing phenomenal results already with our students. And it's a lot of work. It's pretty intense curriculum, but we're really seeing how it's going to build the foundation for our students. And that's the end. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Metziger?
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for the presentation. I had a couple of questions. Well, the first thing on the, you showed a graph on the AYP, but you didn't say what those numbers were, so.
You mean as far as our students with disabilities and where we did not make our AYP?
No, there was a graph, and it said, I don't know, it's about your third or fourth slide.
It had our percentages on it. Let's see. Go back. Oh, this one?
Yes, that's percentages, and that's percent proficient.
Yes.
And okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. Second question on the Common Core. Was this? I didn't quite understand this. Was this a workshop that the teachers went to, or is this something that they're actually doing?
Something they're actually doing in their classrooms. It's a writer's workshop is really the term of what's happening in the classroom. And really what it is a mini lesson, a long period of time for independent practice, and then that shared time at the end. So it's a workshop within the classroom, but the teachers are utilizing the curriculum. It's the Units of Study by Lucy Calkins.
Okay. Because I was trying to read that assessment, or the learning progression, and I thought that was really nebulous. It didn't do much for me from category to category, didn't really say much. But the checklist is a brilliant idea, and I think that's just phenomenal, because that does say, you need to do this, you need to do this,
Right.
where the other one is, you know.
The learning progression really is how we're looking at the assessments to see where our kids fall on that learning progression.
How can you do that when they're so nebulous?
Because you highlight what areas they do have. And so they might have a little bit of the strengths in lead in 2nd grade, but in organization, they're in 5th grade. So it gives you more of a painted picture of where they are as a writer. So you have more individual strategies of where they are as a writer versus one overall grade. And that's more utilized by the teachers, that learning progression, but the writing checklist is really for the students to monitor their learning.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that. I do, because I deal with so many adults who don't write well, and it's really important, especially in this day and age where people think writing has to do with 2 thumbs on a smartphone, and it really doesn't, and especially when you're sending emails where you actually have to convey an idea and it has to get through, and you know, communication is so important, and so I'm really glad that you're embracing this and working so hard with this. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Excellent. Having your staff here and so motivated, and the kids and the parents. And Diego, I knew your dad when he was about your age, and you're a lot sharper, let me tell you. But although he's doing a great job at the high school. Robin, Ms. Sirk, I was very upset when you went to Dublin, as you know, and Dr. Markin, and but I'm so happy you came back. You're doing an excellent job, and it's obvious that the whole community has embraced you. And I had a question on the reading part. When you have students that, and Monica just went back to school. She was at Snow for 4 years, and she told me that she couldn't imagine how it would be if she didn't have the strong reading and writing skills that she got from the elementary school, and then moving forward. When you have a child that is doing the reading but reluctantly, you know, and because the teacher says you need to read, or the writing, how do you get them from that point to where they come up to you and they say, I need 5 more books, like you mentioned, to read? How do you get them from point A to point B?
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of not giving up. We can't give up on those kids.
Repetition.
Right, and it's finding different venues or different avenues to reach out to that student, because it's trying different genres of books for those kids. It's finding the right one that's going to hook them. And it's really, it's my teachers who are the phenomenal ones who really persevere, and they want to make sure every child feels that passion for reading, and so then they don't give up on them. That's why those individual conferences are so important, because the kids know they're going to be accountable. When she comes back, I'm going to have whatever it is next, my goal. And a lot of kids have the goal of not abandoning a book. They have to stay with one book.
And I know that you have, you know, a rich diversity, you know, and I know you have books in different languages that kids can, you know, to continue their reading, and it's all exciting. Years ago, we would invite, and I think your husband would probably remember this, we would invite some of the athletes at the high school to come to the elementary school, and the kids were so excited, because it's like having your big brother come to school. Are you thinking about doing something? Because I know you have community, do you have a community reading day like some schools?
Yeah, we have Literacy Day in February.
Right.
February, March.
So
March.
I would like to suggest maybe to look into that, because it just seemed to be an eye-opener when I saw it years ago over, I think it was at music school years ago, but where the athletes, or it doesn't have to be an athlete, the high school kids came down to the elementary and read to them, and I don't know if, you know, Mr. Morales, you know, coordinates something like that.
That would be wonderful. I know we've had my school psychologist as well tried in the past, and we just haven't had the opportunity to sit down and do it, is get a mentorship program really starting with the high school and the elementaries, because it's a win-win for everybody.
Right, that's great. Thank you. congratulations on, the API. You know, everybody wants to go to 800 and you just missed it the year before.
Right.
Right. So
We're
then-
there now.
Right, so.
Congratulations.
You not only-
Flew through it.
Right, exactly. You just not only hit it, you just went way past it. So, you know, congratulations to Snow for excellent job.
Yeah, and you know, tonight's presentation showed why you blew through it. Just the great work you're doing in ELA and writing is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I love the fact that you incorporated the students. I think that was wonderful. I have a couple questions. I love the summer anti-slide program, or whatever you want to call it. The 5-20-20. What percentage of your students participated in that?
So we had like 250 students bring them back, bring the books back. So we figured it's about 50% because all of our sixth graders did not get the book bag, but they got a particular book for them as they transitioned to the junior high. So we probably had about 350 students take
So
books home.
100% of your students were involved in the program?
No. Involved, yes,
Yes,
but
okay.
bringing them back.
Right, right, because
not-
the sixth graders would be going on.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's a wonderful program, and I think that it's something that summer is a time when kids need to have things to do, when they're saying, I have nothing to do. Then they have this little book bag in the corner that says, read me, right? Fine. Fantastic. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and I love your back. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the bulletin board in the back. Is that yours?
So like I said, we have phenomenal teachers. They even fit in art. So we do have a number of pieces of art, but the story behind a lot of those is they're really connected to a lot of reading and writing projects that are happening in the classroom as well. And so it's a big spectrum of projects happening back there, but it's just exciting to see that there's art still happening in the classroom and how we can integrate it into everything we're doing as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you have any, want to introduce your people that are here supporting you?
So Snow families can stand up.
You have some parents that are here?
Teachers too.
All right. Good, thank you.
And I do want to thank my students and teachers for being here tonight as well. So thank you.
They all were very good, very controlled and in charge, and that's a wonderful experience. Thank you so much. Dr. Mark?
Thank you. Thank you, Snow family. This would be a good time if you wanted to slip out. Thank you so much. I know the students as well as parents have had long days, and the teachers, so thank you so much for your presentations. Really appreciate it. I would like to just mention a couple things to the board. I actually filled in at the Rotary last week for Mr. Morales. Principal of Newark Memorial High School was scheduled to speak, and he had something come up, so I filled in for him. And from that, I was asked to also speak at the City of Newark in their City Council meeting on October 10th. So if you are interested in not doing anything on a Thursday night, I invite you to come out. I am talking about Newark Unified School District successes, both programmatically and academically. So I'm really excited to share that with City Council and the leaders over at the city. Also, I want to let the board know that I've been asked by CTC, the California Teaching Credential, to sit on a panel to develop administrative credential capsules for our school leaders in the state of California. And I'll be there in the afternoon of October 8th and the 9th. And the plan is that this committee will bring our work to the CTC for adoption in the spring, to the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson, for approval, and then to the State Board of Education for its endorsement. And it will align itself to administrative credentials and actual learning capsules for administrators, and it'll be a new venture, and I'm looking really forward to it. And on that note, I would just like to say that all of the administrators at Newark Memorial High School have now either a personal coach through the LEAD organization and or in an academy, a principal's academy, a curriculum academy. So we're very, very excited. And it's a great opportunity for them for their professional growth as well as their work at the high school. I'll be starting next week school and class visits, and so we will be sending that information out to the board, and if you are able to certainly join me, you're more than welcome to join me as I go around to visit some of the schools. Also had a privilege to be a big part or go to several things at homecoming at Newark Memorial High School. Last week it ended with a football game. Unfortunately, we lost to Irvington, and the night ended with a dance, and so my wife Virginia and I went over, and you know, I was going to dance the night away, but I had just had knee surgery, so I had to refrain. But I would really like to thank the administrators, the teachers, the activities director, the athletic director, the commitment that they show to their students. They were there at about 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and the dance ended at 11. Now, being a high school person, I know what that means. That's when the kids call their parents and they don't want them to pick them up because they're embarrassed, so they tell them the dance ends at midnight. And so dance after dance after dance. Where's your parents? I don't know, they should be here. And then when they show up at 12, they say, well, we were told it didn't end till 12. So all of them put in unbelievably long days and long weeks for our kids. It was a great week and a great time, and I just want to give a special recognition to all of those folks and parents that worked tirelessly for that homecoming. Along the lines, tonight is 9th grade parent night at Newark Memorial High School, and they have invited the parents of all 8th graders as well. They're doing a Naviance presentation to all of the parents, incoming 9th graders. And also tonight at Ohlone College is college night. Over 80 colleges and universities will be there presenting, and it's on the Fremont campus, I believe in their cafeteria. So a lot of activities, a lot of great things, and as Mrs. Sert said, I think Newark Unified School District is starting to be on the cutting edge of some phenomenal things, and we're very, very, very happy to be a part of it, and as witnessed by this amazing group of teachers and students and leaders. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Markin. We now have employee organizations in the report. NTA, we're going to take you first. Jacob Goldsmith.
First, President Crocker, thank you for rearranging the agenda. It feels good for this to be conjoined with the other reports instead of sort of floating isolated after the consent calendar. So we appreciate the move. Thank you. I've compiled for NTA a to-do calendar throughout the year by going through some of our past Rep Council agendas with a list of the things I have to deal with in October and November and December, because a lot of the things we do have a yearly time. There's a time for budget. There, in the past, was a time to get ahead of the ball dealing with RIFs, etc. The first thing on the October page said class size grievance, and I need to revise that. We have 100% contractual class size compliance, and it used to be really status quo that the contract was broken and then we talked about how to fix it. Whether it was fixed quickly enough that we didn't have to talk about a settlement, or other years where it was much more confrontational. This is crucial to providing quality education for our students. Large classes, and especially the critically large classes like we've read about in our neighboring school district with 40 kids sitting on the floor, are broken. So we're appreciative that this has been a priority for the district and that we have the skill set at all levels. Counselors deserve credit, administrators deserve credit at the sites and at the district office. There have definitely been some hiccups and some equity issues and some placement issues, but this time they feel like the exception instead of like business as usual. So well done, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
How many waivers were signed?
I don't have a number. I believe it was a relatively small handful. I did get an email for each one. It was about 6 to 8 emails for potential waivers. Some teachers agreed to them. Other teachers were not comfortable going over 34, so declined to sign waivers. And as far as I know, those situations have already been addressed. So 6 to 8 was the starting number.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much. For CSEA, Ms. Condon?
Good evening, President Crocker and board and Dr. Merkin and staff. We took off, I don't know what to say, we took off like jets starting this school year, and it's definitely moving. The kids are doing great, as we can see, and the schools are doing real well. Our grounds are looking really good, and we're all working real hard. Sports is up on a swing. We're out and transporting those kids from school to school, so things are working. I would like to say that I've had the opportunity to be able to work with some of the principals and managers as the president to kind of find out what's going on with them and our staff, our classified members, and how things work. And my goal, as I've always said, is we are unified. We're a district unified. That means we all should be one. My goal is to go this way, not you and them and us. And that's what we're striving for, is to make sure that we're all on the same page, we all work together, and we are unified, even down to our members. So I'm excited about that. And it's, I think the people I've talked to seem to be excited too. They're willing to hear what's going on and learn what our people are thinking and what they need. So I'm thinking that is a big positive move in the direction of making things work better for everybody. And the respect, of course, for each of us. I want to say that we had this last month in September, we had our benefit fair, which was a success. Missed you guys, and you missed some good lunch. But we had a lot of information for our members, and it was a real big success. There is also we're great for getting the education out to our members as well. And this month, CSEA, the union CSEA has prepared a pre-retirement seminar, and it's hosted this month on October 19th at the Dublin High School. So if anybody's interested in knowing about pre-retirement with the CalPERS and what you need to know, there's information on that. I also want to mention, I just kind of want to express my opinion on something. And last month, the beginning of the school year, we all experienced a little Newark Unified disaster with our school, finding out that one of our schools was having a fire issue. Turned out, thank God, it wasn't our school, but it was one of our vandal watches. And on behalf of those people that live there, I just want to say something. We were all worried about the school and found out, like I said, it was the vandal watch. What we did find out was they're all safe, they're fine, and they made it out, the pets made it out. Some of the pets had to be resuscitated, but they were okay. But I'm a little concerned in a sense where they're trying to come back to the community. And I believe our history is something that we should remember, because we go forward by knowing what our history is. And those two people who live in that home are retired CSEA members. And although I'm president for our active members, I feel obligated to also talk for them. Those two members were classified employees and dedicated over 60 years combined for the dedication to our school district. And by saying that, I need to say that even now, with their home burnt, they're still watching our schools and protecting our kids and our buildings and our teachers. And I I don't know all the details. I know there's decisions that have to be made, but I was told that it wasn't going to be discussed until closer to the end of October. And I just would like to say, I hope you guys could think about it a little bit sooner so they can be placed back in a home instead of in a trailer park out in Pleasanton. They belong to the community here in Newark, and they are welcomed in the community at Bunker, and people miss their presence and they're still working for us. I have, one of them was our mechanic, and he is our mechanic and bus driver. In fact, today he's driving the kids to one of the sports trips. So please, if there's any way you can get it a little bit closer to now, after a month and a half, I think 2 months, 3 months, I always have a hard time wondering why it takes so long to make a decision that sometimes just seems right. So when you think about their dedication to our school district and what they still do for us. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Conyon. Is there anyone here from NUMA? Not hearing that. I guess we'll go on to staff reports. Dr. Markin?
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Celeste Hilberg. She's going to do at least a part 1 of Common Core. You've heard a lot of it, a lot of this phrase used over the last several months, and Dr. Hilberg is very versed on the subject and has certainly personally taught me a lot about Common Core, and so I'd like to turn it over to her. So thank you, Dr. Hilberg.
Great. Thank you for having me here this evening. I am excited just to do the first part of Common Core. I'd like to just do a very brief overview this evening because we've been hearing a lot about the Common Core standards for a couple of years, and there's a lot of detail to go into, but I just would like to give the highlights this evening. First of all, to me, the greatest thing about the Common Core is what they represent for our students. The board here in Newark years ago decided that they wanted all of our students to be ready for career in college upon graduation. And that is exactly the goal of the Common Core standards. They are designed so that by the time our students go through our system K-12, by the time they're ready, all of our students are ready for college and career. There are a set of college and career readiness standards that are woven throughout the content standards of literacy, in English language arts in the content areas, and in mathematics. So to me, these standards represent a huge shift in helping us better prepare all of our students for college and career. But a little bit of background on the standards. They really were, this movement was initiated by the Governors Association. The governors came together and they said, we really need to do something. Every state has a different set of standards, and we know that we're not competitive. And mostly they looked at why we need to be providing the best education for all of our children. And some of the data that they looked at is our employment rates and income. And we know that unemployment rate is associated with the level of education that our students achieve post their graduation here in Newark, and their income as well. And so if you take a look, the highest unemployment rate that we have seen back in 2010 is associated with students who have less than a high school diploma, meaning the students who didn't graduate, and the lowest unemployment rate is among the students who have achieved a doctoral degree or a graduate degree, but it's a steady progression. And same with income. If our students aren't graduating from high school, then we know that their chances for living in poverty are greatly increased. And so these are compelling reasons for us to make sure that we do the best that we can do for all of our students. Also, just to add a little bit here, income is also associated with a number of other factors, but it relates to health. And so we know that, the higher the income, the better access we have to health care. So we're really talking about the wellness of our children in a lot of ways. So it's really imperative that we do something to turn things around to make all of our students better prepared for college and career. Something else that the governors looked at was how well we as a nation are preparing our students. And so they looked at the ACT tests, and there are 4 benchmarks with the ACT test in terms of finding out whether or not our students are actually ready for success in college. And as you can see, across the nation, not only, but 28% of our students leave high school and they have met none of the benchmarks for readiness for college. 15% have met only 1 benchmark, et cetera, and only 25%. Currently, with the standards that we have, only 25% of our students are actually ready for college. So basically, I'd like to talk both about the Common Core standards and just a tad bit about the assessments that accompany them as well. But our old standards really have low levels of rigor. They focus on recall questions or recall knowledge. They focus on what we need to know as opposed to how we're engaging our students in thinking. And that's a big shift with the Common Core standards. Rather than focusing on a breadth of knowledge, all of the things that we need to know, they really focus on the kinds of thinking that we want to be engaging our students in that are going to prepare them to be lifelong learners. The current standards that we have also really, as you pointed out earlier, Charlie, they really lack clarity in terms of we really want to be able to read a standard and have a teacher in Snow and a teacher in Kentucky really understanding exactly what that standards mean. That was a key thread that went into the design of the Common Core standards. As we were looking at it, every state had their own set of standards. There were inconsistencies. We were differentially preparing students for college, and so basically the governors got together and they just said we need to do something about this. And so sorry, I forgot about this slide here. Also, when we're working, each state's working separately, it really does prevent states from putting all their resources together. And what we're seeing right now with the Common Core standards is really an absolute explosion in collaboration across the states. People are posting professional development, videotapes of teaching best practices, teachers are sharing lessons. It's just been an absolute explosion of collaboration across the nation. So basically, the Common Core standards are clear. They are consistent. When a student moves from one state to the other, from one district to another, they're going to be engaging in the same kinds of instruction. They've been internationally benchmarked so that we no longer have to worry whether or not the United States is keeping up with the more progressive states, where on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, we come in pretty low compared to our other nations. And so they've been benchmarked with other nations so that hopefully in future assessments, we're going to be performing much more competitively. So a little bit more detail on why they're better. There are the English language arts and literacy standards that apply not only to English language arts, but also to social studies and history and other content areas. And then there are also math standards. So the big differences are listed right here in the new standards. There's a focus on engaging students and having them have access to higher or greater rigor in the texts that they're reading, more complex texts. And so there's a focus in the classroom on changing the teaching strategies so that we're focusing on helping students learn how to understand those texts. And that's the #1 indicator of success in college, is students who can, with confidence, read and understand a complex text. And then we also focus, right now in mathematics, there is, again, a great breadth of knowledge that students are expected to know. And with the Common Core standards, there are fewer standards, and the focus is really on helping students gain deep understanding of the fewer standards that we have. Also in the reading, we're asking students not just to regurgitate and recall information. There's now a focus on providing solutions, justifying answers, and presenting results. And these higher level standards are infused throughout all of the Common Core standards. And it's going to reflect, or it's going to begin a great change in what we're seeing in the classroom. Teachers are no longer going to feel stressed about introducing a broad number of ideas to students. Right now, they're going to be focusing on engaging students in ways where they really understand what is presented and can engage in complex thinking and complex writing and complex discussion and communication in the standards that are included. And so The greatest thing about the standards, as I said earlier, is that we are better preparing our students to be successful in college, and we're emphasizing the higher order skills instead of the knowledge and recall, which is currently the emphasis of the standards that we have. And I actually should clarify that. The Common Core standards were adopted here in California actually back in 2011, so they've been our state standards for 2 years. It's just that the state hasn't really had the resources to provide us new curriculum materials, professional development, etc. And the big thing is the huge expense associated with assessments. So even though the California adopted the standards 2 years ago, as you know, we've continued to test on the previous standards. And so hopefully that, we have seen the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, they're internationally benchmarked. And to me, the greatest thing about the standards is that with the consistency that we're going to be able to provide, the higher expectations, we're going to see greater equity for all of our students. Again, they're clear, and the collaboration across the states. Like I said, it's been just an absolute explosion. And there are I wanted to go into it just briefly about the assessments. There's 2 assessment consortiums. One is called Smarter Balanced, meaning all the states in the U.S. must join one of the 2 consortiums on assessments. California joined Smarter Balanced. So instead of having the STAR tests in California and something else in New York and something else in Florida, there are only going to be 2 assessment systems. We've joined Smarter Balanced. And the exciting thing about Smarter Balanced is that it's going to be taken on computers instead of on a pencil and paper. So they're going to be computer adaptive, which means it's very much like the SAT test. If you answer a question correctly, then you're going to be given a more challenging question. If it's incorrect, it's going to be a less challenging question. And they're trying to zero in on exactly what students are able to do and exactly what students know. And there's going to be a broad window at the end of the year to allow students to test. And we've been told, although it hasn't been verified for certain, that students might even be allowed to do retakes on these tests. And the state of California just announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to purchase the full package of Smarter Balanced assessments, so it's not going to come out of our pockets here in Newark. But in addition to end of the year tests, we're going to be able to have benchmark tests and informal tests throughout the year, chosen from the same item bank that the end of the year tests. So it's going to be a much broader assessment system. So I would just like to talk about very briefly our plan here in Newark. We originally had made a 4-year plan for rolling out the Common Core standards, but we've been recently informed that we're going to be receiving some money for rolling out the standards that needs to be spent over the next 2 years. And so we are focusing on condensing. Right now, Educational Services is focusing on condensing our 4-year plan into a 2-year plan in a way that's manageable for teachers. We can spend that money on curriculum, we can spend it on professional development, and we can spend it on technology. And currently, we're focusing on ways to bring in new, what we're calling bridge materials, to supplement the core materials that we already have, and focusing on teacher professional development. In addition, we need to have, before we can start spending that money, what you can expect from us in the next month or so is an actual budget plan coming from Educational Services on how exactly we hope to spend the funds that we're going to be receiving, which we need to have approved by the board. So that will be coming shortly as well. So what have we done so far? Last year, we focused on English language arts. We worked with WestEd to design actually remap the current curriculum materials that we had to the new standards. What we have learned is that really the bigger focus is not so much on the curriculum materials, it's a focus on the kinds of questions that teachers are asking and the kinds of tasks that they're engaging students in and the kinds of strategies that they're using in the classroom. That's the biggest shift. So we worked with WestEd last year, K-12. So currently our secondary teachers, 7 through 12, English teachers are all teaching the Common Core standards. K through 6, the elementary schools, they are still writing their curriculum units, and they're also bringing in the bridge materials that Mrs. Sert spoke about earlier, the Lucy Calkins units of study. And then in math, this year we're focusing on secondary math. We have we have a coach, and she is working with our secondary math teachers. This year, she's working on remapping the Math 8, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 to the Common Core standards, and also providing training on the mathematical processes. And then across the content areas this year, we're doing professional development. We've turned some of our staff meetings into professional development on the Common Core standards. At the elementary and secondary level, once per month, a staff meeting is going to be a professional development on the Common Core standards. And the focus of those is going to be close reading of complex text, writing, and then rigor, creating rigor in tasks and questions. That's it for your introduction to the Common Core standards. I hope that gave you an overview. And do you have any questions or comments?
Mrs. Thomas.
Oh, would you mind going back to that map of the states? Because, you know, I thought that all the states had adopted the Common Core standards, and then I'm hearing about some states like Mississippi,
Texas.
Texas, yeah. What's happening there?
Right. Not all states. I think they're going to all come around, because if you're doing your own thing, it's really going to be a problem when it comes to purchasing curriculum materials. But I think there are some states that think they can do a better job. And I'm absolutely positive that's not the case. To me, this is, you know, the analogy in technology is open source. We are now having open source. And right now, there are people who are posting texts, full texts for 8th grade math or algebra or 7th grade English. They're posting full texts online that teachers can download at no cost and even modify that are aligned to Common Core standards. If people don't go with the Common Core, they are really going to be left in the dust, because there's just this huge amount of collaboration that's going to make so much available to us in a way that we've never seen before.
So is the federal government driving any of this, or is it the states?
No, it started with the Governors Association, as I said, and now it's just an initiative that state Department of Educations are either choosing to adopt, and in very few cases, not adopting.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Dr. Hilbert, excellent report. Thank you. My niece works for the assessment and the testing in Texas, so I'll have to call them tomorrow and find out why they're not on board.
And please report back. I'd like to know what they're thinking.
But they have a history of, you know, you have to pull them. I wanted to ask you, I know the district is working on the seamless transition, especially for 6th graders, as they get ready to move to the middle school or to the, you know, and is that happening here with Common Core, where the teachers are cooperating or working together on a lot of the same things, or is it basically elementary and then the secondary?
Well, the Common Core standards are broken up. K-5 is one set of standards, and the second set is 6-12. And so it's actually helping us better prepare our 6th grade students, because all of a sudden, even though there's wonderful consistency from K through 12 on the standards, there are what they call anchor standards, where you can just have a progression from kindergarten to 1st grade to 2nd grade, all the way up into 12th grade. So there's those learning progressions, but there's even a greater alignment with the 6th grade, with the 7-12. They're part of a stronger learning progression. And so last year we were in a little bit of a quandary, because as we were doing our professional development and design of instructional units, K-12, we really didn't know what to do with the 6th grade teachers. And so we did have them doing professional development with the 7-12, because that was there was more similarity in the standards that they were going to be teaching. However, this year they've chosen to work with the K-5 teachers because of this curriculum that we're bringing in. So we're stumbling a little bit right now, but there is going to be a much more seamless transition. Part of the reason is that the standards were set up that way, and what we're finding too, as we're looking at what they call bridge materials, the bridge materials are either broken up K-5 or 6-12. So we're going to have that support as well.
So does this all help with the A to G that we're going to be starting at the junior high school? I mean, at the high school next year?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This is helping us. It's actually helping us do what we had already decided to do. So it's very exciting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Menziger, before I call you, I'd like to go ahead. We close public comment on non-agenda items before we proceed on. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Have you gotten anything, Ms. Thomas? Hearing none, we move on. Mr. Menziger.
Thank you. I really like the focus. It's the assessment that kind of baffles me a bit. Not only the assessment, but the penalties for not meeting goals. You know, I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I think I need to do an entire presentation on the assessments because they are very different than the assessments that we have right now. And I think there's going to be less of an emphasis on the penalties for not achieving goals. What I'm hoping is that the state of California will end up winning the battle with the federal government, and that the new API system, which is being revamped as we speak to include more things than just assessments, to also include such things as the percentage of students who graduate with A through G, the percentage of students who participate in AP tests. So it's going to be a much better accountability system, and if it's good enough, then hopefully we can actually no longer participate in the federal accountability system, which we have seen to be very punitive. The tests, though, are very different, and I have to tell you, they're going to put goosebumps on your arms when you take a look. The challenge that is expected of our students is quite different. It's no longer multiple choice, where I have a 25% shot. All of a sudden, kids are literally moving objects around on the screen or highlighting things. It's very different, and it does make me a little bit nervous. So, but I'd love to explore that more with you as a separate topic.
Yeah, obviously the No Child Left Behind, with the litany of jokes, no teacher left standing, no student left untested, and so I get that, and so but the assessment, the way you've described it, sort of informally, does frighten me because it is, number one, it seems rather subjective in the answers, and then because a lot of it could be on the writing or whatever, and we've all seen people who correct other people's writings or try to assess other people's writings also invoke sometimes their own style, and so that part makes me a little bit nervous. But and then when you talk about moving things on the screens and stuff like that, again, that could play into a maybe a socio-economically disadvantaged family doesn't have computers, or you don't have that training. So, and again, I've done this kind of work. I've actually seen a touch screen where somebody picked up a mouse and actually put it on the screen. And I don't mean that to be facetious. I just mean that they just didn't know any better. And so,
Well, you brought up a number of good points, and luckily we have a technology committee this year headed by Tim Irwin, and we've been doing a lot of shopping, so we know it's going to be our responsibility to make sure that we have equity and access and success on these tests. And so we know that we need to have a really good plan, and we've been working really hard on that this year. And it does make me nervous, but we do need to build in time from a very early age. I didn't mention something. The new tests are going to be grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. So that gives us 3 years to work with students so that by the end of 3rd grade, they're hopefully going to be pretty proficient. But it does mean that we're going to be needing to give access to all of our students early on to let them become as familiar as they can prior to participating in these tests, or we are going to have that digital divide showing up in the assessment results. But Charlie, I really think you are going to love the new assessments. They did what the state of California didn't do for us. They thought in advance that one of the main things we want to know is, did a kid grow from last year to this year? They've designed these tests to allow us to look at individual student growth, which is never part of the California system. And for what they also designed it so that, if you teach to the test, you're actually teaching exactly what we should be teaching. For every content standard, they looked at what inferences there might be, and they came up with this term, a claim. So every standard is associated with a claim on the kinds of thinking that students should be able to be adept in to be successful in this kind of a question. So the assessment system far exceeds in quality what we've had right now. I think it'll be difficult for us to make the transition, as it will be for everyone across the nation, but I think that when we finally get to the point where we're comfortable with it, it is actually going to support the kinds of teaching that we want to be having in our classrooms and the kinds of instruction we want to offer our students. So I'm nervous about the transition, as are you, but I'm pretty excited about the possibilities.
Well, the cost of doing those type of assessments is going to be, something that, I don't know how you budget for, because it could be, well, okay. A couple of the things that you said that were, that piqued my interest. Condensing a program from 4 years to 2 years is incredibly difficult. And, school districts don't manage programs. They manage education, and this is very difficult, and we've seen poor rollouts, and so I have absolutely zero faith in the state of rolling this out properly, but it does concern me in that if we plan for a 2-year and the state doesn't meet their schedules, then you've got everybody trained, you've got everybody ready to go after 2 years. And whenever they invoke the requirements or finally get the materials they need, if it's 2 years down the road, then you have to retrain, redo everything. So really concerned about that. As you know, training's really good for about the first week or so after you've done it. If you don't use it, then you lose it, and you lose it very, very quickly. So that just the cost and that just really concerns me quite a bit. The last thing you mentioned, the bridging and the bridge materials, and Mr. Rodriguez mentioned this. I just got to point out that these guys are making us look brilliant, because with the move to an A to G type curriculum and support for our students and requirements, and then Dr. Marking talking about 6th grade, starting in 6th grade. Through the 10th grade, or through high school, then launching into college ready, so college and career readiness, just makes us look brilliant. The only thing that, again, that does concern me is, the secondaries don't seem to have the computer labs open and the libraries open for the kids, and as we need to do that more when the kids are ready, lunch times, after schools, things like that, where we tend to close those down. And so we're going to have to, this is not just going to affect the way we do business, the way you do business, and the way you set up curriculum and the teachers, but everyone. It's going to change everyone.
Those are all very valid points, and those are all the kinds of things we've been exploring and talking about. And one of the main things that we're doing is networking with our neighbors who are a year or two ahead of us and finding out how they've been doing it, how they've been funding it. And I do think there will be bumps, because it represents the biggest change that I have seen in my career in education. I went to a presentation by former superintendent of instruction. Why am I not thinking of his name? Help me here, Dave. Yes, Jack O'Connell, and it was wonderful, and he's with a new organization in Sacramento, but he just listed all of the different, many big changes looming on the horizon. Change in local control funding formula, change in the standards, all new curriculum, and on and on and on. I think there were 7 items on his list, and he said any one of those would represent something that might consume all of our energy for a few years, and he said but we're doing all 7 of them simultaneously. So it's going to be a bumpy time ahead, but the only thing that keeps me going is knowing that the changes that I'm seeing are the things that I've hoped for throughout my career. The things that we're seeing Snow Elementary School doing with the Daily 5 and the cafe and the Readers and the Writers Workshop tied to the Common Core standards, those are the kinds of rich learning experiences that I've been waiting for, and getting away from this, throw tons of information at them and hope some of it sticks, which is what's been the result of No Child Left Behind. We're finally saying goodbye to that and moving to something that will be genuinely valuable.
I did lie. There was one more comment. Sorry, I took so many notes. This is going to create a tremendous, it already is creating a tremendous amount of work on your department, you and your department. You may down the road start, realizing that you're going to need additional help, TOSAs, whatever, for certain periods of time. That's when you need to come back to us and say, I've got this amount of work, I need secondary TOSAs. I got plenty of elementary people, I need secondary TOSAs, or I need one or two people, and that's when you need to come back and ask.
Absolutely, and I'll be back next month.
Okay.
I didn't say we'd say yes, I said, yeah, ask.
Well, actually, what you mentioned is actually a really important piece of what's going to be in the funding plan that we're putting together right now. We realize that we need to have more folks in the field really working with teachers to help them deal with the change. And that's what we're seeing many of our neighboring districts do, is putting the money into technology TOSAs, math TOSAs, and literacy TOSAs.
Yeah, especially breaking up elementary and secondary.
Absolutely.
And stuff, because they're such different animals.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good. I have a couple questions. Number one of the first slides you had talked about the percentage of students that met the 4 benchmarks.
Yes.
What are the 4 benchmarks?
Okay, I think I have these memorized. I think Algebra 1.
Okay.
I think 4 years of English was another benchmark. There was a science benchmark. I think it was 3 years of science, and then 2 years of social studies.
So it has to do with the classes they've taken.
Yes.
What percentage of our students? It said that 25%.
Nationwide, 25 for us.
Correct.
I need to look that up, so I would like you to let me send an email tomorrow.
It would be interesting to see.
Yes, I could get that very easily, but I don't recall what that is.
Good.
It's not high enough, I'll tell you that much. I would like to see it higher.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for a wonderful presentation. I think this is the beginning of a lot of good presentations, and we've got an exciting year in terms of curriculum, and so it's nice to be kept in the beginning of it as you're doing these things, and so we can grow along with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Public hearings is the next item. Are you ready? Would you like to applaud? Okay, let's applaud, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We have a public hearing, sufficiency or insufficiency of instructional material, notification of compliance resolution number 1926 with Educational Code section 60119 for funds received under the pupil textbook and instructional materials incentive program and/or funds for instructional materials from a state source. Education Code section 60119C specifies that the governing boards of school districts are subject to the requirements of Education Code section 60119 in order to receive funds for pupil textbook and instructional materials incentive program and/or funds for instructional materials from any state source in a fiscal year in which the superintendent of public instruction determines that the base revenue limit per average daily attendance, ADA, for each school district will increase by at least 1% from the prior year. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this item? Public hearing is closed. We've already done the comments on non-agenda items. We're now into the consent. The first consent is personnel items. Anybody would like to move?
I move approval of A1.
Ms. Thomas moves to approve number 1. Do we have a second?
Oh, second. Sorry.
Mr. Menzinger, seconded. Would you vote, please? The vote is 4-0 with 1 absent, and the student vote will be abstained from this. Thank you. B, personnel, non-personnel items. Does anybody have anything that they would like to pull? B4, Mr. Rodriguez.
B7 and B9.
Mr. Menzinger, B7 and B9. Any others? All right, I would like to have a motion then for B1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8.
So moved.
Mr. Rodriguez moves to approval of those items. Second?
Second.
Ms. Thomas, second. Would you vote, please?
Oops, I forgot to vote.
Is Ms. Thomas is still not?
Well, you know, I ended up, can we do that over?
Yes, certainly.
Let me reset everything. I had locked myself out.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Rodriguez, would you vote? Okay.
The vote is 5-0 with one absent, Mr. Stadler. Mr. Rodriguez, B4.
Thank you, President Cracker. I'll probably call Mrs. Finklin tomorrow. I apologize. I really should have asked that this item be moved up. It's hard to sit in the chair for a couple hours. So, so I'm hoping maybe in the future, Dr. Markin, we can do maybe like a recognition. I mean, running a nonprofit for 39 years, that's so exemplary. This is resolution number 1927, which I'm going to ask that we read in appreciation of the African American Cultural and Historical Society. This is an organization, a lot of you know Mrs. Finklin, that she was a teacher in Newark and retired a few years back. And to take on and getting people together to start a nonprofit, you know, I have some experience in that and helping start up in Sandor a few years ago, and how difficult that is. But to have it last 39 years, and the input that that organization has had, not only in Newark, but throughout Alameda County and the state, it's marveling, and it's really hard to really, you know, understand. But I've seen firsthand being involved with the organization and going to their Martin Luther King meetings and being a speaker at one time. And so some of you have done the same, Dr. Mark and some others. It's just amazing what this organization has been able to accomplish with all these years. So I was hoping that we could take time and read the resolution.
Would you like to approve it first and then read it?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve item B4, resolution number 1927.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Ms. Thomas seconds. Would you vote, please?
Ms. Metzinger, did you vote?
Oh, sorry.
Ms. Crocker, did you vote?
I did. I'll try again. Is it taking it? I'm pushing it.
There.
There it goes. Okay. All right. The vote is 5-0 with one absent, Mr. Stadler. Would you like to read it now, or should we wait till we finish with the consult?
We can wait till we finish.
Okay. Mr. Menzinger?
Okay.
Consent, excuse me.
Sorry, I'm having lots of problems with my computer here.
I am too.
B7. B7, I was not in attendance, so I have to abstain.
I move approval of B7.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Thomas moves. Mr. Rodriguez seconds. Vote, please.
Can you abstain?
Yeah.
I did. Oh, I'll do it again. I'll abstain twice.
Okay, the vote is 4 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstention, and 1 absent.
That would be, oh.
Mr. Menzinger abstains, and Mr. Stadler is absent. B9?
Yes. First of all, I am 100%, maybe 150% in favor of the topic that Principal Orput is putting forward here. The reason I pulled this is because, frankly, I don't believe that this is an issue for the board. I had emailed Dr. Markin. Unfortunately, it was earlier today. I didn't do it over the weekend. But this is a letter from a principal to his senators and elected officials, okay? This isn't a board's letter, this is a principal's letter, and as long as the superintendent approves this, I don't believe that this requires board approval. Now, my concern is that this will become a precedent, and I don't want people to suddenly think that the board has to approve letters like this. If he's going to use his title, and he's going to do it on letterhead, district letterhead, then that's a superintendent's call, not the board's. So frankly, I believe that this item shouldn't be in front of the board, even though I'm 100% behind the topic.
Is he planning to indicate the fact that this was passed by the Board of Education? Is that part of?
If the board passes it, he would.
No, but that was part of the desire
Sure.
to bring it to us, to get our support for what he's saying.
But I understand Member Mensinger's point, and certainly I can endorse it on essentially endorsing it for the school district if the board felt that this would maybe set a precedent that they shouldn't set.
Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sorry, Ms. Thomas, you're next.
It seems to me that the usual way that we do these things is to have a resolution. So have it framed as a resolution that then we adopt and that then can be forwarded on. Would be the appropriate way, and then it carries more weight than a letter from an individual principal.
Great point.
Mr. Rodriguez?
No, I was going to suggest the same thing, that we do it as a resolution. You know, serving in the military and the way, you know, Principal Arpad, you know, put the whole thing in, I think he did an excellent job personally. But you know, we do so many things and we're so busy, and a lot of times I'm probably really upset at myself and not noticing this prior and taking action on this, you know, a lot of years ago, because it's, you know, definitely discrimination, and the way I see it, and treating our kids differently because some of them go to a, you know, alternative school as opposed to a, you know, the high school, our comprehensive high school. So, so I'm glad that, you know, and it looks like he spent a lot of time on this, and so I'm glad that he's putting this forward, and I think a resolution would be great.
We'd be happy to do that.
Wonderful.
Great
So
I think we should convey to Mr. Orput how pleased we are with him taking the lead on something like this, and kind of goes along with everything else he's been doing to improve our alternative programs.
Yes.
Now one thing we can do is we can, you know, again, this is a one-time, one-off, you know, never to be happen again kind of thing, but we can take a vote of support, not necessarily approving the letter, but just support, because it's, it was, does it say for action? No, it doesn't say anything.
No.
I would love to see the resolution come back. I mean, that would be
No,
our
I'm not talking about in lieu of a resolution.
No, I know that.
I'm just, you know.
Well, can I move that we accept the letter?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means that we, like a lot of reports that come to us, we accept them. We don't have to approve them, but we accept them. Like the audit report, we accept it.
I think that'd be fine.
No,
That's fine.
I don't know.
And
then have a resolution
We will
come back next
redo
time.
and bring a resolution for the next meeting. That's a great idea.
I would rather see it pulled.
I would second your motion as
Okay.
As accepting.
Accepting the letter, sure.
Accepting the letter, but there would be no action, it would not be sent?
Okay.
No, we're just accepting it.
Okay.
It's up to Tom.
It's up
whether
to him to
It's up to Tom and Dr. Markin whether.
Okay. Would you vote on that, please?
Nice, great job.
The vote is 5-0 with one absent, Mr. Stadler. Thank you very much.
Great,
Any
thank you.
comments on, we wanted to read the resolution?
Yeah.
I don't, my computer doesn't have it, so what we normally do is go down and each take a section of it. Do you all have the ability to pull it up?
I got it, finally.
Yeah, it's not coming up.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, well, do you want to read it then?
Well, Member Mensinger, you got it too?
Do you have it too? You can alternate.
Between the two of us here.
Sure.
I've got it too.
And she's got it
Okay.
too.
Do you have it
So
too?
we
Okay,
can all-
good.
We can all
All right,
share.
then let's start with Nicole. We'll start with you. Would you start with the heading and
Can
the
you
first
read that?
whereas?
Do you need it bigger? Or, I don't think so. Her eyes are a lot better than mine, I bet.
In appreciation of the African American Culture and Historical Society, whereas the African American Cultural and Historical Society formed 39 years ago to provide a vehicle for Black Americans in the area to share their heritage and culture, as well as work in harmony with ethnic associations of the area, and
Mr. Benziger?
Whereas our district is full of passionate, eager learners who believe in the values of equality and quality public education for all, and?
Go ahead. Next one.
Okay, whereas the African American Culture and Historical Society Incorporated provides for the engagement and education of our district-wide community, and?
Ms. Thomas?
Whereas school leaders depend on a network of community members, parents, community-based organizations, and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success, and whereas they continue to provide learning, self-esteem building, fellowship, understanding of tolerance, and multicultural engagement through their annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. commemoration service annually, and
Mr. Rodriguez?
Whereas the Society has continued to sponsor a Black History program the second week of February, now in its 39th year, that reflects on the contributions that African Americans have made to American society and the rest of the world, and whereas the Society also holds an annual Kwanzaa event at the end of December, this multicultural event is where children are appreciated by the adults as the first fruits, and children learn what it really means to honor their elders.
And whereas the Society has remembered the need to reach back and help another along their way through the annual distribution of scholarships to provide a means to achieve higher education as a means of economic mobility for recipients, and whereas the Newark Unified School District's education system depends upon volunteers to strengthen the quality of education in the classroom and extracurricular experience of its students district-wide, now therefore be it resolved by the governing board of the Newark Unified School District that we commend the African American Cultural and Historical Society Incorporated for their contributions made to develop and empower every student to be productive, responsible, and successful students. Passed and adopted this first day of October 2013 by the following vote: 5 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 absent. Thank you very much. It is passed. Good. Any other comments on consent items?
I have one. On the item that we just passed and read, I was hoping that maybe is it possible for all the board to sign that and then have it delivered to Mrs. Finklin?
Can we do something even more special? You know, when the city does their resolutions, or when the
Like a
state does it,
proclamation and
they're
stuff?
like a proclamation, and they have, they you know, get a calligraphy
Sure.
or some
Is that possible? We can work on something
framed copy that we can all sign maybe at the next meeting, and then give it to them as a
Or
framed
that could
copy.
be part of the recognition if we do a recognition later.
Yeah, okay.
But for now, is it okay if we all sign the resolution?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Is it one here copy that we could do now, or to be not available until?
Well, it wouldn't be what Member Thomas is.
Right.
We could do that. We'll just take a little while to get that done.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, so we just signed, so I'm clear, we'll all sign the resolution that we passed tonight, but we'll have one that's made up special that we'll also sign.
Correct. We're talking about 2 different items. Okay. Anything else? Any other comments?
No.
Board of Education Committee report, announcements, requests, debriefs, and discussion. Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, President Crocker. I really enjoyed the Newark days, especially since we're at the front and we didn't get wet being in the back. but Dr. Markin, you should be proud, and I know you are, of the involvement of all the schools, having both bands there, and it was just so exciting. And Schilling had their own little band, and they were playing instruments, and it was just a great time. And I want to thank Mrs. Warren and her husband for driving us, and the little, our little school float. It seems like it serves every purpose. Every year we have the same float.
Right.
We just,
a little different decorations.
yeah, we just tie up and, just change it a little bit. But, and having the kids on there, and it was just an excellent time. And I know on Sunday with the the fair and the district being involved. And it just was a great weekend, and I really enjoyed it. And on ROP, I mean, Mrs. Thomas will make a report. She invited me to the meeting, and I asked if I could visit some of their programs, you know, other than when they have open house. So I had a chance to visit the Auto Tech program, and the superintendent was there with some of the other people. And it'd be something that I would suggest to all of us here, if that's a brand new program that was out of it for a couple of years, and it's just great to see all that.
You were supposed to invite me.
I know, I was just in the area, but we can go again. I screwed up, didn't I?
We talked about going again. We knocked on the door, it was locked, and we said, okay, we'll go back again when classes are in session. And
let's go back, because I didn't see everything.
You didn't miss anything. I missed Thomas.
Well, I guess I'd like to echo everything you said, Ray, about the Newark days, and especially the staff that put everything together for our float that we walked along. It was just great fun. The one thing I think I hope we can see some data on, Ms. Hilberg, is the number of students that are deficient in units by grade level, and maybe like a histogram. I think we saw something like that last year. And one of the things that we didn't get last year was what's our track record in terms of having those students that are deficient in units successfully coming to and completing, making up units over the summer. So I think what we had was the histogram showed the students that were lacking units at the end of June, end of the year, but it didn't say how many units were made up over the summer. Kind of gives us an analysis, or maybe if you had an analysis about what prevents kids from making up units or not, that would be helpful, and whether or not more resources need to be put into helping students so they don't fall behind and not graduate. Thank you.
Mr. Menzinger?
Yes. Again, thanking all of our staff for all the work they did behind the scenes for us, to make us look good on Newark days. It was fun. Apologize, kind of, for throwing out about 10,000 sets of beads, but the kids loved them. Yeah, the kids loved them.
He knew he shouldn't do it when he did it.
I was told, do not do this, which you know what that means. So, but then again, I must admit, every other board member did it after I started doing it, yes. After they warned me not to, so, okay.
You're on television, you're telling the whole committee, the Newark
tens
Days
of
committee
people that watch our meetings, yes.
Did you like the hat I got you guys?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, that was great.
Those are your hats? They were very nice.
No, you can keep them.
They
I'll give
were,
them back to you. No, okay.
I'm sure you don't.
It was full of rain, because I walked
It was
in
so
the rain.
hot, we were all perspiring pretty well. We had a joint youth task force meeting. Dr. Hilberg presented. It was very good. The joint youth task force has not a whole lot of money, but a little bit of money that Dr. Hilberg is trying to help us spend. But thank you for going to that, and many of the other things that you've been to as well, when we know you live quite far away. So we do appreciate that. As for request, we made a change in the agenda this evening.
Yes.
And we agreed during the August 6th meeting that we wouldn't do that. And hang on.
Go ahead.
And our agendas are voted by the board, and changes to the order can only be made by the board. There are certain reasons why we put things in certain places, and we agreed during the August 6th meeting not to make any changes until we got all together as a board and talked about the agenda and went through the workshop. So there was a change tonight, so my request is to either have our workshop sooner, then we can talk about the change of the board, or and move the agenda back to the way it was prior to this. Again, the board gave direction during the meeting on August 6th. So I would like the agenda to be back the way it is, and then we can have our meeting and talk about the agenda and agree as a board once again on the format.
May I address that? Because when it came out, I had talked with Ms. Warren and asked her to notify the fact that I was going to ask for a change in the agenda and to let the staff or the organization presidents know about that. And when the agenda came out, the fact that it had been changed in the agenda, it was to a point where I decided as an executive decision or as a presidential decision to leave it as it was rather than to change it. But I acknowledge the fact that that was my error, and I do apologize for that, because it is something that the board needs to decide the order of the agenda. And you had talked about that, and I made the decision because I felt it was going to be a smoother meeting. So that was my reason for doing so. Anything else that you would like to speak about?
So we're going to move it back to the way it was?
As far as I'm concerned, it should go back until the decision is made by the board.
Thank you.
But that does not mean that we will not change the agenda every time until we make a decision about that.
Once again, the board president does not have the authority to change the order. The board president, in conjunction with the superintendent, only has the authority to place things on the agenda.
Correct, but as a member of the board, the president has the ability to suggest a change at each meeting and ask for a vote. Approval of the agenda is something that we do at the beginning of all meetings.
Anybody can do that.
Correct,
yes.
correct.
Yes.
And so I'm just saying that that would be my choice to do so, and that's what I had planned to do this time. But it was to a point where I had made the decision that it would have been more of a problem than it would solve.
More of a problem?
Because
the
people
board
have
gave
been notified
direction?
in terms of being here. Okay.
Okay. Well,
okay. And that was my reasoning behind it, and I do apologize again.
But you're right. We do need to have the meeting because there are certain things that seem to be that we did for certain reasons, and we just need to see if it's the same reasons.
Right, right. And that's something when we, I think, do the reorganization in November, December. Okay. Ms. G, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
How did Spirit Week go? Because it's a change this year.
Yeah, I think it saved a lot of class time. It was definitely less stressful than having to do the skits because that's like months in advance, lots of practices. It was fun. It was nice to see the dodgeball tournament. It was really interesting. I was surprised how well it all went.
I know I got hit 2 times.
You got hit?
I was there. I
He
was
there.
looking. I
We
was
went
trying to
for
avoid.
lunch. We went for lunch, yeah.
It was fun.
Had I known you were there, I would have paid you.
I was definitely not playing.
I know, but those little balls that they had didn't really hurt anybody. But it was nice having everybody jump all over the place.
I can remember when dodgeball was pulled out of the elementary curriculum because it was something that could have been fraught with danger for the kids because of the amount of speed at which people would throw the ball at kids. And so when it came back at the high school, when I heard that was there, I thought, oh my goodness. It could be really wild at the high school level.
So there's a
great
special ball?
Yeah, it was like a little...
Like a Nerf ball?
Nerf ball, yeah, like a little tiny...
Or a little foozy?
Yeah.
Oh, so it doesn't hurt when you...
Yeah, so it wasn't like the big rubber...
But those kids can still throw that. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I just have 2 comments to make about my announcements. And number 1 is that Ms. Thomas, Mr. Sadler, and myself went to 2 sessions of Masters in Governance and had a really fine time. It was a really good time spent down at the Santa Clara Board of Education meeting. And we got some good notes and some good discussions going on, and it was time very well spent. And I think that it was good to have people, experienced board members going along with Mr. Stadler as he goes through this process. So I think that it's something that, I'm not sure when his next sessions are, but it would be something that would be nice to have someone go with him, just to make sure that there's someone to bounce it off and to ground it. And I think we all learn from these questions being brought up.
I didn't get my classes.
You didn't finish it?
No, I didn't get in. Mine was full, so I didn't.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
That's because you waited until after it started.
Well, we could have a summer program. We'll check and see if we can have a summer makeup of units. Okay, yeah. The other thing is that a report on the ad hoc committee, if you could get that in the Friday update from the board.
What's the ad hoc committee?
From the board.
What ad hoc committee?
Mr. Dennis.
Oh, the one that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm waiting for Greg to
Okay.
put that together.
Good. And that's it.
Can I say something before you?
Yeah, I've got.
I forgot to thank you and Mrs. Thomas for putting together the cake, the birthday cake for Newark Days. And my little kids that were there enjoyed it, a whole bunch. But it was nice. It was nice the whole way, you know, having the city council and the school board, you know, right there by the stage doing this thing. I did have on the agenda issue that, or item that Member Mensinger was talking about, and I wanted to ask Dr. Markin if the board would agree that on the litigation, having that on the board, if we can get a legal opinion on that?
We have.
On how to have it?
On the agenda, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, if that's okay, because other districts are doing it, so maybe Mr. Lozano could tell us exactly how to do it so that we can leave it on there, because it's been on there since I've been on the board, and all of a sudden we're taking it off. And the other thing is about the nonprofit recognition. If Dr. Markin, maybe we can talk about that and see if we can, whether we're going to do just the African American Culture Society, or whether we're going to take a few minutes and recognize nonprofits that are helping our kids, which might take forever. So but maybe we can talk about that and see how we can. I'm more concerned about Mrs. Finklin, you know, because of the 39 years. You know, I mean, that's way above everybody. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. No other reports. I close the meeting. 9:07.